Caring for someone with Alzheimer's disease can be a very challenging experience for caregivers. As the disease progresses, different areas of the brain are affected. People in mid to late stage Alzheimer's may have difficulty expressing their needs in words, may be less able to reason, or may be unaware of what is socially appropriate. Caregivers who are the most successful are those who can be accepting and can adapt spontaneously to unpredictable situations. Caregivers with a healthy sense of humor do the best. The ability to laugh things off creates a playful atmosphere that is good for the caregiver and the person with Alzheimer's. Successful caregivers also seek outside help through support groups, respite care, and spiritual nourishment. Regular exercise, a good diet, and plenty of rest are important for caregiver wellness.
Hello, I'm Marian Karpinski, and I'll be your host. In this program, we will focus on the mid to late stages of Alzheimer's. The disease affects people differently, and because each situation is unique, there is no single solution that will work for everyone. We will explore some typical issues that occur in the mid to late stages of the disease. It will help you to find solutions for your own caregiving situation.
There are a number of changes that occur in the brain that are reflected in the behaviors of the patients. So a number of abnormal substances get laid down in the brain tissue, and they infiltrate the brain tissue, and the brain gets sick, and then brain cells actually die. And if you look at a brain of a patient with Alzheimer's disease over time, it actually shrinks. So the brain melts away, and there's this actual loss of brain tissue. And the memory centers shrink first. They get sick first, and the memory starts to deteriorate. And then the degenerative process spreads out to the other thinking parts of the brain. It spreads out to the other higher cognitive centers of the brain, the parts of the brain that do all the things that make us human. So as the disease spreads, then these other mental functions are lost. The ability to use and to understand language deteriorates as the language centers wither away. The ability to organize spatial relations in the mind disappears as the brain tissue withers away. So for example, you have a mental picture of your neighborhood, and you can find your way around your own neighborhood when your mind is intact. You have a mental picture of the inside of your house, but as the disease progresses and these sort of spatial centers of the brain degenerate, people lose the ability to find their way around their neighborhood. Eventually, when the function is severely damaged, they lose their ability to find their way around their own home. In the later stages of the disease, people often have trouble even spatially organizing a table or a plate in front of them, finding exactly where a chair is that they're going to sit down in. Their perception is profoundly impaired. And family members often think, oh, the person has a vision problem, right? They can't see, they need to go see an eye doctor. And the families are correct that there's a vision problem, but it's not in the eyes, it's in the brain. It's in these spatial and visual centers in the brain. One of the other functions that deteriorates later in the course of the disease is the ability to sort of regulate your own social behavior. We often think of that as a function in the frontal lobes. And as the disease progresses from the memory centers to the frontal lobes, sometimes people's ability to regulate their own impulses or to behave in a socially appropriate manner is sometimes affected.
The disease doesn't progress in the same way in every person. Some people develop profound changes in their personality and behavior due to the specific way their disease spreads. Even with the loss of language and other functions, some people still have the same personality, and display a keen sense of humor well into the late stages of the disease. People who have Alzheimer's disease on an average live 8 to 10 years after the onset of symptoms. The disease does not attack vital organs such as the liver, heart, or kidneys. Because most people with Alzheimer's are elderly, they will pass away from some other illness they have, or an age-related condition. Common causes of death are infections, such as pneumonia, or complications after a fall. Some people simply stop eating. At the end, it is usually a very quiet and peaceful passing. People in mid to late stages of Alzheimer's are not able to initiate activities on their own. It's as if their start button is broken. Left to themselves, they will often sit and doze most of the day. It's our responsibility to provide them with activities that they enjoy. Trial and error is a common approach to activity planning, but it is not the best way to go about it. Finding out what the person enjoyed in the past is important, because then you can plan activities that are more likely to be meaningful. If the person is unable to tell you, consult with family members or close friends. Even if the person can no longer do a specific hobby, such as crocheting, she may enjoy doing something related, such as winding yarn, looking at pictures of crocheted objects, or watching someone crochet. One-on-one activities work better than group activities in the mid to late stages of the disease. However, being with others in a group setting is still important. It adds richness to a person's life, even if she does not appear to be participating. On some level, she may still enjoy what's going on around her, even though her facial expression remains the same. Keep in mind that the purpose of the activity is for sheer enjoyment of the moment. It's not about her completing the activity or following your directions. For example, if in the past he loved to garden, gather together a pot, soil, some seeds, and a trowel. He may not know what to do with the materials, and you may have to guide his hand. By holding or touching the soil, he can experience the smell of it, the feel of it in his hand, all the things that brought him joy in the past. The activity may turn out to be something quite different from what you expected. The seeds may never be planted. The soil may never get into the pot, becoming a finger painting instead. The result is unimportant, as long as the person was engaged. If he enjoyed himself, the activity was a success.
Patients with Alzheimer's disease, mild, moderate, severe, they're invariably going to forget these pleasant activities. That doesn't mean that they're not worth doing. Even enjoying them in the moment is worth doing. And I think that some of the emotional benefits of engaging in these activities hold over, even though the person can't specifically remember what it is that they're feeling better about.
Sometimes caregivers interpret an activity as a failure and decide never to do it again. They will say, "Well, I took her to the park and she just sat there." Getting someone to talk, laugh, or show a positive response doesn't always happen in the later stages. If the person stayed with you and didn't want to leave, that is proof enough that it was enjoyable in some way. People with Alzheimer's become less able to tolerate commotion or excitement as the disease progresses. Shorter visits that focus on the person with Alzheimer's work best. Being attentive for 15 to 30 minutes can be more satisfying and less stressful than an hour-long visit. At large gatherings such as weddings, picnics, or holiday dinners, the person with Alzheimer's can become overwhelmed or feel isolated. That doesn't mean you never include him or her at another family gathering. Instead, select a time during the event that will be relatively calm and relaxed. If it's a holiday dinner or picnic, for example, have her join the group just for dessert. Family members can give more undivided attention during this short time. It is unrealistic to expect someone with mid to late stage Alzheimer's to attend the entire function. It is important to respect her request to go home. Choose one individual to be a companion during the event. When she has had enough, this companion can take her home. Many older people enjoy taking naps during the day. Napping provides needed rest and a break from the stimulation of daily activities. If naps interfere with nighttime sleep, experiment with shorter nap times until a balance is found. Where the person naps is very important. The bed is not a good choice because when he wakes up from a nap, it may seem like morning, causing unnecessary confusion. A nap location, such as the living room couch or recliner, makes it easier for the person to understand that it is the middle of the day, not morning. The person with Alzheimer's can no longer plan his or her day. As we create each day's schedule, it's important to balance the kinds of activities that fill the day. One of the tools you can use to help balance the day is the 3 S's that stand for stressors, soothers, and signs of trouble brewing. The stressors are those unpleasant activities or events that are known to cause agitation, anger, or anxiety. Bathing, taking medication, and dressing are 3 common stressors. Soothers are the known activities that relax. These might include singing, looking at old photos, or eating food or candy. It's important to find out what soothes the person. The 3rd S stands for signs of trouble brewing. These are signs that the person is becoming upset. A raised voice, crying, a furrowed brow, or fidgeting are common signs. Use a soother to keep the situation from escalating. Besides the 3 S's, there are core principles that work throughout the disease. One core principle is to stop when the person says no, rather than force your will.
Well, here's some thoughts about when you're in the thick of a bad moment. If, for example, you have them in the bathtub even, and they have become very irate or kicking or hitting or cursing, or obviously they're hating this, it's tempting to stay right there and try to hurry up and get done. I really do think most of the time you're going to be better off if you move away, take your hands off, step back. You may even need to get around the corner so the person can't see you anymore, to get rid of the visual antagonism of you persisting on something that person really doesn't like. So stepping back, stepping away, moving out of sight. Let that moment settle down, and then do something that you know usually is irresistible, whether that's singing or joking or offering chocolate. I don't care that they're in the bathtub. They can still eat their favorite thing, whatever that is, to soften that. It may be that you need to holler for somebody else if you have the luxury of somebody else around, and have that person come in and talk about the baseball game. Just let that heated, angry moment dissipate. Let it dissolve. Let it go away. I don't think it's wise to work through it. It gets so big and bad that it doesn't usually end up where you want to end up.
Remember, even though the person with Alzheimer's cannot always tell you what she wants or needs with words, the behavior is telling you. The behavior doesn't come out of nowhere. Something triggered it. It could be a memory, the surroundings, or your behavior or attitude.
When a difficult or awkward situation occurs, the person with Alzheimer's is doing the best he or she can. Rather than trying to force a change, focus on the part that you or the surroundings might have played.
Is the room noisy, cold, or too bright? Was I trying to talk while the TV was on? Did he become confused because he couldn't tell which voice to listen to? Did my own irritation trigger the uncomfortable situation? Ask yourself, was it my tone of voice, the speed of my movement, or something else in my approach? The person with Alzheimer's can feel and may react to your anger, anxiety, impatience, or disappointment. Remember, your mood is contagious. Another core principle is to respect the person's feelings and whatever concerns he or she may have, followed by 2 other techniques called stalling and distraction. It's important that the person feel heard. Even though you may feel that the concern is unrealistic, it must still be acknowledged. The best way to address a concern is to agree. For example, if she says, "I want to go home," agree with her by saying, "Yes, going home sounds good to me. I'd like to go too." Stalling and distraction can then be used to reinforce the experience of being heard. "But first I need to get something to drink. Please keep me company. Come with me." Then talk with her about home. Come up with every idea you can think of that helps her to experience the enjoyment of home. Look at photos. Ask the person to tell you what she likes about being home.
Remember that acknowledging the person's concern establishes trust, and it's the trust that allows stalling and distraction to work. Using stalling and distraction without acknowledging the person's concern is disrespectful and may create agitation.
Another core principle is to follow the lead of the person with Alzheimer's.
You can, with your fingers. That would be fun. Here.
She has always given you clues about likes and dislikes. When you follow the person's lead, you honor her pace and level of stamina, rather than making her conform to a rigid schedule. One person may enjoy getting up early and being dressed for breakfast. Another needs more sleep and likes to eat in her pajamas. A third may not have the stamina to tolerate a series of personal hygiene activities at once. It's up to you to follow his or her lead and create an individualized plan of care that allows the person to be happy. Repetitive questions, such as, "Where are my babies?" occur early in the disease. As time goes by, the question may be a word or sound, something like babies, babies, babies. Earlier in the disease, you could soothe her concern by telling her that the babies are sleeping. She would be satisfied, understanding the importance of letting babies sleep. Now, with fewer functioning brain cells, a different technique is needed. You still want to let her know that her concern is important, but now she may be more comforted by holding a baby doll or stuffed animal, something that she can snuggle with. Help! Help! Help is another
Outlet covers. If a cover plate of an outlet or switch feels warm to the touch, turn the switch off or unplug electrical cords from the outlet. This may be a sign of an unsafe wiring condition. Have an electrician check the wiring as soon as possible. The grounding feature provided by 3-pronged plugs and 3-holed receptacles is a safety feature designed to reduce the risk of shock. Never remove the grounding prong. If your outlet does not have 3 holes, use an adapter to connect a 3-pronged plug and make sure that the ground wire or tab is correctly attached to the outlet. Electrical cords should not be covered by rugs, carpets, or any other material that can become fuel for a fire. Never attach electrical cords to walls or baseboards with nails or staples. A staple or nail can puncture or damage wire insulation, which is used to isolate one wire from another. If you find a cord that is frayed or cracked, replace it immediately. Extension cords are designed for temporary use and should not be used inside ceilings or run through windows, walls, floors, or doors, where they can deteriorate unnoticed. Extension cords that are designed for interior use are not weather resistant and should not be used outdoors. Do not overload an extension cord. It can overheat and become a fire hazard. Never piggyback extension cords. Power strips can be convenient to use when multiple appliances are needed in the same location. If you use a power strip, be sure it is UL listed and has a built-in circuit breaker that cuts off electricity to the power strip when it becomes overloaded. Light bulbs generate heat. Ceiling fixtures, recessed lights, and hooded lamps trap and retain heat. If the wrong type of bulb is used, or one with a higher wattage than recommended, the light bulb and its fixture can overheat and start a fire. Use a bulb of no more than 60 watts if you cannot determine the correct wattage bulb for a particular fixture. Halogen lamps generate much more heat than standard incandescent light bulbs. To avoid starting a fire, do not use halogen lamps in areas where wind could cause curtains or any combustible material to come in contact with the bulb. Most modern appliances are safe to use and will not cause a fire if you follow a few simple precautions. Appliances that are not in use should be unplugged. When you need to use the appliance, insert the plug completely into the outlet before turning it on. Avoid leaving appliances on overnight. Do not try to repair an appliance yourself. Poking utensils or other objects into an appliance, such as a toaster or hairdryer, can cause a shock or ignite a fire. Keep appliances away from sink areas and hot surfaces. If you see smoke or smell an unusual odor coming from an appliance, unplug it immediately and call a qualified repair person to inspect it and repair it. Clothes dryer vent hoses accumulate lint and should be inspected and cleaned twice a year. Heat buildup could spark a fire in the hose or dryer. All vents should be directed to the outside. An iron that is turned on and left unattended could pose a fire hazard. If you're caring for someone who is forgetful, consider purchasing an iron with an automatic shutoff.
Well, the primary difference between natural gas and propane is the fact that natural gas is lighter than air, so natural gas will ultimately rise and dissipate. Propane, on the other hand, is heavier than air and it will settle down at the floor level. Both natural gas and propane, an odorant is added so that you can smell if there is a leak in your home. The other factor is you might hear gas escaping if you have a leak. Well, the odor actually in both cases smells a lot like rotten eggs, but if you're not sure what that odor is, you might contact your provider and find out if they can at least provide you with a sample of what that odor might smell like.
All propane tanks and cylinders have a main shutoff valve. Be sure you know where this shutoff valve is located and how to use it. Portable propane tanks should not be stored or used in the home.
Well, natural gas is safe, but to keep it safe, it's important that you, your family, and any caregivers that you have coming into your home are aware of certain basic precautions. So if you smell or hear natural gas, you have to keep in mind that gas mixed with air and exposed to a spark can be combustible. So don't light any matches, don't smoke, don't turn on any electrical switches or use the telephone or do anything else that's going to cause a spark. Also, open any doors to the outside or any windows to allow fresh air in and the gas to escape. Then evacuate the home of anyone that's there and go to the neighbors and call the utility from their phone and keep people out of the home until the utility tells you that it's safe to go back in.
Alarm units that detect gas are available wherever you can buy a smoke alarm. A pilot light is a constant burning flame that is fueled by gas. The pilot light eliminates the need to manually light the appliance. Though most pilot lights are protected by a shield, you should still protect the pilot light from drafts and litter. Do not store combustible liquids or materials near or on top a gas appliance. A pilot light could ignite any flammable material. Keep your gas appliances reliable and safe by having them inspected and cleaned once a year by a qualified service professional. Do not use space heaters in areas of high traffic such as hallways. Someone could trip over it, causing a fire or a burn. Never leave a space heater on unattended, such as when sleeping or when no one is home. Some space heaters have safety features, such as an automatic shutoff and a high-temperature limiting device. Flammable materials such as bedding, draperies, rugs, furniture, and flammable liquids should be kept at least 3 feet away from space heaters. Gas and kerosene space heaters use oxygen to operate and release carbon monoxide. Be sure to leave a window open to provide proper ventilation in order to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. Carbon monoxide detectors are available for use with these types of heaters. And never refuel a space heater while it is running. Creosote buildup in a stovepipe or chimney can ignite and cause a flue fire. You can reduce creosote buildup by burning seasoned wood rather than freshly cut wood. Having the stove, stovepipe, or chimney cleaned yearly will also reduce the chance of a flue fire. Do not overload stoves or fireplaces with wood. This can cause excessive creosote buildup from smoldering wood. Combustible materials such as towels, drapes, and newspapers should be kept away from stoves and fireplaces. If a stovepipe or chimney fire should start, close off the air supply and call 911 or emergency services. Use a screen around the fireplace to keep jumping embers from landing on the floor or rug. When cleaning out a fireplace or wood stove, place the ash and embers in a metal container and put them outside on a fireproof surface. Tree branches should be at least 10 feet away from the stovepipe or chimney. Kerosene, gasoline, paint thinners, and other volatile materials should be stored in clearly marked sealed containers. Use metal containers for storage of mops, dust rags, gloves, painting equipment, and other oily supplies. Store all flammable liquid and supplies outside of the home or garage away from sunlight or any other heat source. Whenever you have to refuel a hot machine such as a lawnmower, wait at least 5 minutes before refueling. Recycle magazines and newspapers so they don't build up in your garage or home, providing fuel for a fire. Hibachis or barbecue equipment should never be used indoors. Burning charcoal gives off lethal amounts of carbon monoxide and can cause death from toxic gas. To start a charcoal fire, use fire starter made of solid material. Be sure the grill is away from flammable materials such as low porch ceilings, walls, or shrubbery. Smoking continues to be the leading cause of deadly home fires in the United States. Do not allow someone who is confused or has dementia to smoke without supervision, and never leave smoking materials unattended. Before going to bed, check the rug and chair cushions on both sides for ashes that may have dropped accidentally. If a cushion or chair has been burned, move it outside, away from the house, and call the fire department. Upholstered chairs or couches may smolder for hours before breaking into open flame. Use wide ashtrays. Soak the contents with water or empty them into a toilet before going to bed. Never allow someone to smoke in bed or when lying down. He or she could fall asleep with the cigarette burning. Do not store matches or lighters in direct sunlight or near heat sources which could spontaneously ignite them. Teach children that matches and lighters are not toys. You can prevent injury or death from a fire by having working smoke alarms and fire extinguishers installed throughout the home. To avoid panic when a smoke alarm goes off, practice exit drills. In some situations, people are afraid to call the fire department. They delay, wondering if it's necessary. Keep in mind that any fire can quickly become a matter of life and death. Don't hesitate to call the fire department. They are there to keep you, your family, and the person you're caring for safe.